Hey guys, my name's Cant and in today's video I'm going to be giving you 3 reasons on why you shouldn't spend your hard-earned money on really nice guitars like these two. Let's have a look. So if you've watched this channel before, you know that I have 2 Jackson USA guitars. Both of these guitars retail for around $4,000 to $4,500 Australian, which is somewhere around $3,000 American. I was lucky enough to get them really cheap. I got this one for $2,400 Australian secondhand, and I bought this one brand new $3,000 Australian. On the top of my head, those two prices together should be somewhere around $3,000 to $3,500 American. So I was lucky enough to get really good deals on these guitars, but here's why you shouldn't spend all that money on a brand new one if you're thinking about doing it yourself. And this just doesn't apply to these guitars, this applies to any guitar that's of really high quality, like a Fender custom shop or a really nice Gibson, or just something like that. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love these guitars to death. These are my favorite guitars. They're the best guitars I've ever played, and I don't really see myself buying any more. However, there are some features and some instances where it might not be the same case for you. Before we get into any of the reasons, if you guys like this video at any time, please feel free to leave a like and a comment. If you want to argue with me about my 3 reasons, that's fine as well. You can write as many hate comments as you want. If you guys want to support me and the channel and what I do, definitely check out the Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description. So starting off with reason number 1, resale opportunity. Now, if you looked at this guitar secondhand, especially where I'm from in Australia, chances are you wouldn't even find a single one. Maybe if you were after a Fender custom shop or a Gibson or something like that, you'd have a much easier time getting one, but for stuff like this that's a little bit more niche, you really have to be lucky for someone to actually want it in the first place. It's one thing to even see one of these going for secondhand, but it's another thing for people to actually want it. And when you do want it, chances are they live in another state or something, and then you have to go through the whole headache of shipping it over and making sure it's packaged good, stuff like that. And then you start thinking like, what if something goes wrong? It's just a really big hassle. Perfect example of that is this guitar right here. This was like a 1 in a million buy. It was at a Cash Converters, which is like a pawn shop retailer in Australia, and it was in Perth, so I had to get it shipped down from Perth to Adelaide. I was lucky enough to have that whole process not be too much of a headache, but I'm sure that if it was like just someone selling it as opposed to like a retailer, it would be a little bit more of a concern. So as much as these guys, as well as like really high-end Fenders and stuff like that, will keep their resale value, it's just a little bit more of a different story when you're actually looking at selling it. Before I even started filming, I tried to find any USA Jackson guitars on Gumtree, which is like the Craigslist of Australia. I couldn't find any on there, couldn't find any on Facebook Marketplace, and I couldn't find any on Reverb. So the more you spend on a guitar, the more niche it gets and the less people that are going to actually want it. This is opposed to like a production model, for example. Say if you got like the Pro Series model of this guitar, or just like a really nice $1,000 Ibanez or a $1,000 Jackson, or even just like a made in Mexico Fender, something like that, where you know as soon as you put it up on Facebook Marketplace or Gumtree or eBay or whatever, there's going to be people interested because it's a really common production line guitar. This would become even more of an issue when you start getting into boutique brands as opposed to like mass manufactured brands or just well-known brands like Jackson and Ibanez and Fender and stuff like that. As soon as you start going to boutique brands like Mayonnaise guitars or Skevison guitars or anything, like I know that I'm probably never ever going to touch a Mayonnaise in my life because they're just not around and not many people know them. Even though they're amazing guitars, even though that you always see them on Instagram, you always see them on YouTube of being really high quality instruments, the resale opportunity is just not there if you were to buy one. At least where I'm from. Maybe if you're in the US it would be a little bit easier, but again you'd probably have to ship it interstate, which again is a massive hassle. Reason number 2 is that you're not paying for the features you get on the guitar, you're paying for the playability and you're paying for the craftsmanship. This guitar is absolutely stunning. The fretwork is immaculate. All the pickup routes are so smooth. The switch is amazing. The pots feel high quality. The roll off is amazing. Just everything, every single appointment on this guitar is absolutely perfect. And that is what you should expect when you're spending big dollars on guitar. Anything less and you would have to be pretty annoyed. Fortunately for me, both my 6-string and 7-string Jackson Misha USA models have been really good in that stuff. Let's not get ahead of ourselves though. This guitar costs around 3,500, 4,000 Australian, and I'm certain you could get the features that are on this guitar for a guitar that's like 1,500 or 2,000 Australian, or maybe like the sub $1,000 range in American. For example, like bare knuckle pickups. The ones that are in these guitar are really nice. They're the Juggernaut. They're the Misha signature set. However, you can pretty much find really nice bare knuckle pickups in lots of mainstream mass-produced Ibanez guitars now. They're getting really common, especially things like the Hip Shot Bridge, the Graphtec Nut, locking tuners, like all of these things. As years go by, they're really becoming common in lots of production line guitars, and you get all of the nice appointments on this guitar on those guitars. But the difference between this one and the ones that you would just buy from a Guitar Center or buy from a Derringers if you're in Australia or something like that, is that the actual craftsmanship and the actual quality of everything, the way it feels in your hands, the way it plays, like every single routing, the pickup switch, like all that, the minute details is what you're really paying for when you buy a custom instrument or a USA custom shop. Things like the way the neck sits in the pocket, the pickup routes, the quality of all the switches and the knobs, and like the playability, the fretwork, just every appointment on the guitar is absolutely 100% immaculate, and that's what you should be expecting when you spend money on something like this. Also, things like this really nice quilted maple top that's actually like a thick cap of maple, as you can see from the natural binding here. Things like that are pretty expensive, and you wouldn't be finding them on many production line guitars. Like, this is something that you'd pay for in a USA custom shop. Apart from being absolutely gorgeous to look at, it does make a quality difference to the sound. I'm not going to open that can of worms though, because that's just a whole different topic. And the third reason, which in my opinion is like the one that's most close to me, is that you can't go back once you buy a guitar of this caliber. After you spend like a year, 2 years playing guitars like this, it's really hard to not be really critical of every other guitar that you see. For example, like when you buy a production line guitar, maybe like a $1,000, $1,500 Ibanez or a Jackson or something like that, you start to nitpick at every little thing that's on the guitar, when really you shouldn't be expecting it to be like this one, but it's really hard to break that. Aesthetic blemishes and stuff like that, I'm not really too fussed about. When there's things like the nuts not glued on properly or something like that, stuff like that is just unacceptable to me now. After that I've had this guitar, it's really hard to justify like going back to one that's worse than this. It's like buying a Ferrari. Like if you had a Ferrari, why would you go back to like a Holden Commodore? Do you know what I mean? I'm trying my best not to sound snobby, but I'm going to try to explain it the best way I can. When you buy guitars like this, there are certain specifications that you're going to get on this type of guitar that you're not going to find on like a production model type guitar. One thing about this guitar that you're not going to find on pretty much any other guitar, as far as I'm concerned, is the 20-inch fretboard radius. That is something that's really exclusive, and you could get that if you ask for a custom guitar. All you have to do is ask, especially when you're spending that much money, they'll pretty much do anything you want. But things like a 20-inch radius, when you get used to it, it's really hard to go back to a production model that might have like a 14 or a 16 or something like that. Another thing is that in this neck, I know that there's 2 graphite reinforcements in the neck, really strengthening the neck, really making it hard to move, especially in different weather conditions and stuff like that. Premium features like that, unless it's like a really thick neck, like an 8-string or something like that, you're probably never going to find graphite reinforcements unless you spend the extra coin on a custom guitar. Can you see where I'm trying to get at here? Things like the tone pot not working unless it's pulled up on a push-pull pot. Stuff like that you're just not going to find on a production guitar. I know the newer versions of these guitars come with a roasted basswood body and a roasted older body, depending on what model you get. Like things like roasted bodies, like unless you spend the extra coin, you're not going to get that on a production guitar. And when you buy those guitars and get used to them and get used to the way they feel, get used to the way they sound, you play them all the time, it's really, really hard to go back to a production line guitar. Obviously, there are some exceptions. Like for example, I just sold a Fender Telecaster Player Series, which is a made in Mexico version. It cost around like $1,000 Australian. That was a really nice guitar. I really enjoyed it, and to be honest, I miss it a lot. However, I have had many experiences with like Indonesian made and Korean made guitars. Not the really nice Korean made guitars. They're like another tier of Korean made guitars that just aren't as good, and they do have certain hiccups on the actual guitars, whether it's like a routing issue, whether it's an electronics issue, whether it's like the nut not being glued on, sharp frets, or not stainless steel frets, things like that that you just can't go back to once you've had a really nice guitar. Prime example, after trying bare knuckles in my 6-string Juggernaut, this one here, after I tried the Juggernaut bare knuckle pickups in here, I just couldn't go back to things like EMGs or stuff like that. I did try other pickups, I tried Fishman's and stuff like that, but something about the bare knuckle pickups, I can't even put it into words. Like once you try a pickup like that, everything just is opened up. Everything sounds absolutely amazing. When I wanted a 7-string, regardless of what I was going to get, I wanted to put bare knuckle Juggernauts in it. I was just lucky enough to find one that was the exact same model. Hopefully in the future, I'm looking to get another 7-string guitar, one that's possibly a little bit longer in scale length, and I'm definitely going to be chucking bare knuckles in that one as well. However, with that supposed guitar that I want to buy, because I've had all the really nice specs on this one, I'm not going to compromise on that one. I want to be stainless steel frets. If I'm going to be tuning to drop F, I want it to be a little bit longer. You start getting really, really picky with the specifications once you've had a really nice guitar, and that is really, really, really frustrating and really bad, to be honest. I wish I could just walk into a guitar store, pick up any guitar, and no matter if it was like a little bit shorter in scale length, or maybe it didn't have stainless steel frets or something like that, I'd still be happy with it. But once you've had 2 really nice guitars like these, it's really, really hard to go back. In saying that, it doesn't really apply to everything. Like I'm a very, very like modern metal type of player. Like I love my Periphery. I love all those type of gent bands, progressive bands and stuff like that. So this guitar was absolutely perfect to me. And if I was chasing a tone or chasing a guitar to play that sort of style of music with, this would be the standard. I would not be going down from this. However, if I wanted to buy another guitar, if I was getting into like blues or something like that, I wouldn't feel the need to spend as much as I did on this one on a guitar for that. Like I wouldn't go spending $3,000 on a Fender Strat or something like that to play some John Mayer, because I'm not going to be playing it that much. But stuff like this, where this is pretty much like my strong suit, this is what I play the most in, this is the stuff that I enjoy the most, like this is the standard now, and it's not going to change. And that's something you need to be aware of when you buy a really, really nice guitar. So that's it. If you guys have any other reasons on why you wouldn't spend big money on a custom shop guitar, or if you want to argue with me in the comments, definitely let me know. If you guys like this video anytime, please leave a like. And if you want to see more stuff like this, definitely subscribe. I don't usually do videos like these. I do more videos on like demos and reviews on products and stuff like that. But if you want to see more of this stuff, definitely let me know. Again, if you guys want to support me and what I do through tabs and stems and all that good stuff, definitely check out my Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description. But until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Thank you so much for watching. Ciao.